All right, welcome back to part two of the cardiomedical interview with Dr. Abdul Haseeb. We're going to be starting up again. How have you been since the one day we haven't spoken?
Pretty fine.
How was
Thank you.
clinic?
Janik, so the rest of the day was pretty okay. Summers are pretty slow for us, so got some time to get back home early, and so far so good. I've already done my first 4 hours of clinic in the morning, so been pretty good. Like I said, summers are slow, so it's pretty chill. Just you can spend some more quality time with your patients, so it's always a good thing.
How are summer like your slower months? I would think like since kids and people don't have like to go to school as often, you would have like more patience compared to this the normal school year.
So our patient numbers usually are dependent on sick visits. So once school closes down within a couple of weeks or so, the coughs and colds, congestions, the vomiting, diarrhea, fevers all kind of pretty much go away because they just don't get spread around. So what
Oh,
we see mostly is just mostly checkups and sports physicals and back to school vaccinations and stuff like that. So it's pretty much the sickness really goes down once school closes down.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, this little intro was actually a great way to segue into like the questions because the next series of questions are like a little bit about what you do in like your clinic work. Can you tell me a little bit about the patient population you primarily serve? You told me that say with your pediatrics you can go from infants to 21s. Have you noted any like particular healthcare disparities or any unique healthcare needs among like the patients you treat and how do you like address them?
So our patient population starts age-wise from birth to 21 years of age as a pediatrician. Uh, the demographics that we have is pretty varied, which is we have a good number of both Caucasians and Afro-Americans and Hispanic patients in our offices. Our office here in Cyprus, which I'm at today, has a good population from Middle Eastern countries too, Jordan and some other areas. Not many, but a few of them. Uh, So the race is pretty diverse. Financially, as far as the financial demographic goes, we serve a good 70% of patients are Medicaid. So which pretty much means that they are at a certain level of the poverty line. So you have to make a certain amount of money to get your kids on Medicaid. So the demographics are pretty widespread, which is good, which is good. Um, the challenges are always there, especially with your Medicaid population, which is getting them to services like consultations is hard. It's harder, I would say. It takes longer time to get them through to specialists. Um, but they eventually, we I think it usually gets done. The one concern that we really have is with mental health, though, which is a really tough one to get our patients get seen by. And it's just the way mental health providers are, which is most mental health providers don't even take any insurance. It doesn't matter whether it's pediatrics or adults. A lot of them just practice via cash. So that becomes a real issue for our Medicaid patients.
Do you know why that is?
I'm assuming I've never gotten deep into it. I'm assuming that the payment from the government or the commercial insurances uh, are just not enough for them. I'm assuming. So, and they feel like they make enough money through cash patients that they don't need to see that many, and they still make enough to be comfortable about. So, still there are institutions out there, but the wait time is just crazy, crazy. We're talking about sometimes a year or two to have a mental health patient get seen. There are services now which are helping us out. So there are groups which are government funded and which do offer their services, which is you have a patient with mental health, you can give them a call, and then they'll go over with your patient with you, ask you, certain questions, and they'll come up with an action plan. So there are some services out there, but you ideally would want the patient to go and see a specialist face to face, and have it becomes difficult, especially in a practice which is busy, to pick up the phone, call the call center, get a psychiatrist online, and then talk to them about the patient, and then go back, look at the labs. It's just slows down the flow. So it's a service out there. So, but overall, mental health is just is a disaster, unfortunately.
In your experience, do you think like that the broader sort of opinion of like government services towards mental health isn't still like taken as seriously as it should be? Because it's like like you said that you have like a difficult time having your patients see who are on Medicaid to be seen by a specialist. Do you think it's like a similar thing where maybe the government doesn't take it like as seriously as it should in regards to mental health?
Yeah, for sure. Like I'm assuming it's all over the country, but I guess Texas is probably one of the worst ones. For example, autism, which is part of kind of mental health uh, condition, it's just the services are just so poor. So we always compare our services, or I would like to compare our services with the Western European countries and the services that they provide to autistic kids, which is as prevalent as 1 in 54, 1 in 55 kids. So it's a pretty prevailing disease, unfortunately. And the services are just not to be found. So if you look at Western European countries, they have just amazing resources for these autistic kids. Uh, but mental health is just I guess it's just bad all over the country.
Do you think the fact that we're gonna just move a little bit into this topic, but do you think the fact that a lot of the Western European countries have like a government funded healthcare, do you think some of that has any sort of impact on like how much of these services are offered?
Yep, yeah, it has to be. Yeah, it has to, because everything pretty much is government funded there. So everything's pretty much streamlined, and this is just what it is. So you you have some sickness. This is the path that you want to take, which will include a mental health person, therapist. So it's just all streamlined in a government run program, like in Western European countries. It might take a little bit longer there, sometimes with issues like not mental health, but regular medical issues. But overall, just our next door neighbors, Canada, has a universal health plan. Uh, Pretty much all industrialized countries in the world have a government-run health program. All Western Europe, New Zealand, Australia, England. I guess we are the only I can think about. Uh, we're the
I do believe the US is the only like largest first world country that doesn't have a single payer healthcare like option.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's so bad because we have in like actual numbers we spend some of the largest sums of money. I think like trillions of dollars that go into Medicare, Medicaid, into Social Security, and we have like the worst outcomes to come from it. Like we spend so much money and we have like we don't even have like a lot of it to speak for, and
I
it's
think
depressing.
I think there's a lot of people with not that good intentions out there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Being a it's hard. The insurance companies, I feel like, are the worst of all. So the way we get the same medication which is sold here, if you go through a commercial insurance, for example, depending on what commercial insurance you're talking about, what you can get inhaled corticosteroid for asthma control here for as much as $200, $400. Same thing you might get in Canada for 50, $60 or something like that. So you might have heard a lot of people getting their medications from across the border, which is Canada. So which is very sad and strange. So, but that's I guess insurance commercial insurance companies have a lot to do with that part. How they've kind of played a role in how the healthcare gets managed, and who knows? I mean, I've never got into the politics of all this thing, but who knows who's doing what, and making money, and how it works out for people. There are definitely some great things about how things work in here for as far as medicine goes, the advancements, and we are pretty much the pioneers as far as research goes and medication goes, and bring out new medications and stuff like that for the whole world. But there's lots of deficiencies, especially uh, for the middle class people.
I think what's always like a little bit funny is that I'm not like completely educated on like the politics of it, but from my understanding, the bare bones of it is obviously these healthcare like companies as they have more wealth and influence, they start lobbying, they start their own lobbying organizations, they come together with like hundreds of millions of dollars to then they get their senators on board, their like elected representatives and pay them, and they basically have their they speak to the talking points to their own like constituents to say, oh, this is why you wouldn't want like a certain universal healthcare option or some such and some such, and that is like a truth in basically every type of industry that does lobbying. They do something like that. It's just depressing that a healthcare is a part of that too.
That's how it works. Lobbying and stuff is just the way it is. So unfortunate, but you try to do the best that you can in the system that you are in, and go from there.
Yeah. But in like a little bit some on the more positive notes, what are like the more rewarding aspects of being like a physician, a pediatrician, and like being part of managing your own clinic?
Well, just starting a day, getting into a room, seeing a healthy 2-year-old child who smiles back at you, and seeing them grow, seeing them being part of their lives, how you can influence.
Oh, you've accidentally gotten on mute.
uh, Helping parents out with their concerns regarding their kids, answering them, explaining them, feeling good about that you've done a good job about doing your part. um, it's a good journey. It starts in the morning, 8 o'clock, ends around 5 o'clock or so. You see some sick patients coming in with asthma exacerbation, short of breath, cannot breathe. You give them a breathing treatment, they feel better right away. It gives a joy, brings a joy on everybody's face, including my face. All those kind of simple stuff for us, but it's good to see patient feeling better with what they're coming in with. It's always good to have patients who are coming here for well exam visits, talking to them about drugs, alcohol, uh, different aspects of the societal uh, uh, concerns that we have for our kids, for our growing kids. It's good to address those things. Like these days, we talk about sleep a lot. We talk about screen time, the social media. All those things makes you feel good about you're trying to do something good from your part at least. In the end, the buck really stops at the parents, and they have to kind of manage and control things. We do our part for the 15, 20, 30 minutes we spend with our patients, but it makes you feel good if you've done something good and tried your best that you could. Um, and it's just, you always feel like when a parent leaves, says thank you to you multiple times, that's always a good feeling. So, and the best part is that this whole thank you doesn't end, for me at least. I'll get phone calls from my relatives, from my friends, all day long, here and there, just a little advice, 2-minute advice, a 30-second advice, and they are so appreciative of it. So that's why I always say that the best profession to be is medicine, and the best profession is pediatrics. I don't know what patient, but for us, you go to the masjid, an uncle will stop you, not knowing that I'm just a 21-year-old doctor, but a 70-year-old uncle will stop you and ask them about their condition and stuff, and get a little advice from you. You do the best that you can, and you get some duas from them. So it's all good, man. You can't go wrong with
So,
this.
uh, because of like sort of the mic quality, you said that you had like you're specialized in pediatrics, but you also had took like your fellowship in like two things you were speaking, and that didn't come across like across like the mic. Can you like enunciate that one more time? Yeah, I can't hear you. I don't know why. Your voice isn't being picked up by the mic.
And immunology.
You said immunology and that's weird.
Allergy.
Allergy immunology? Okay. Can you like bring like your phone closer? Like your voice wasn't like being picked up of it just then. I just like heard that.
That's the close I can get. Otherwise, I'm gonna break my back. I have to have my nice, good support in the seat.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I chair problems. I have one que I have one question.
Allergies and stuff. So that's what allergy would include.
Hmm.
So asthma, except asthma, eczema, food allergies. Immunology would include immunodeficiencies and stuff like that. But basically, this is asthma, eczema, food allergy. That's the main thing you deal with as an allergist.
Oh, so you're very like well equipped for like those type of issues specifically.
It should be too, because it's such a common condition. Asthma is, allergic rhinitis, nasal and ocular allergies are. So, but yes, so we get a more specialized training. We can offer more stuff than a primary care would. So it's just good.
I I definitely understand that. I literally coming to Houston, it's like we this was place was built on a swamp and like we have so much pollen. I have to deal with every type of allergy that exists.
I went for my fellowship training all the way in Buffalo. So you would think Buffalo, 7, 8 months of snow, how would you have any allergies there? But we had a whole allergy training program in the University of Buffalo where I trained as an allergist. So allergies are pretty much all around the country. You'll have different types though. So a warm, humid environment like ours, grass allergy, tree allergies, dust mites. There'll be some other allergens in other areas of the country. So which is pretty much all around though. But again, more in some areas than others. So
Oh, that's really interesting.
yeah.
So again, with this is that obviously medicine is like a consistently advancing field. So and with all like new developments in vaccines and other treatments, how do you keep up with like the latest advancements and research in your field, especially if it might be like in allergies?
I read every day. That's how it has to be. If you're not, you're being dishonest.
Do you look at it like do you look at any specific type of journal? Do you read like studies?
We've got, books. We've got, and so much stuff is online now. So, but to me at least, you have to read every day.
Hmm. Okay, that makes sense. So like scientific journals and studies, basically.
If you're really into this field, you should not come into this field because unless you have that passion and the thought process that you want to do the best thing for your patients and be honest. If you're not well read, you just won't do what you're supposed to. It's as simple as that. And I'm talking about simple stuff, simple stuff. So of course things change, new recommendations are coming out, and there's so much out there to know. So it's just unbelievable.
If you can like remember something right now, but what's like something that you've recently or like ever read but in like a previous time that of like an advancement that you've learned that has helped you?
Be more specific about the question.
So it's like I talked about like continually learning, and have you ever like read like a book or like a study, something that you've learned that's new that has helped you in your practice?
A quick example right now. So there is something called a LEAP study, LEAP, learning early about peanut introduction. So nowadays it came out about 5 or 6 years ago, where they took kids who had who were at a higher risk of getting peanut allergy, and that was based on their history of eczema or was based on the history of having egg allergies, and they took them as early as 4 to 5 months of age, and they divided them into two groups. One group they introduced peanuts as early as 4 months of age, and the other group was not introduced to peanuts at an early age. So this again, the group belonged to a high risk uh, group of developing peanut allergy, and they show that those kids who were given peanut at an early age, they were able to decrease peanut allergy by almost 80% by the time they were 5 years old. So that research got translated into clinical practice. So now every time we go in a room as early as 2 months of age, we start bringing this topic up, telling parents that you have to introduce those highly hygienic foods, which includes peanut, tree nuts, fish, egg, wheat, soy, as early as 6 months of age. And those who are at high risk, right after 4 months of age, if they are developmentally able to eat or start solids. So that was a right away translation from research into clinical management. And unless a person is well read or is into it, they wouldn't have a clue what I just talked about.
Oh, that's something that I've definitely sort of read about how early introducing like things early that people later on in their lives have allergies toward that helps them. I think that definitely makes sense. So obviously, as a physician, you've successfully navigated your pre-med and medical school journey. Do you mentor any other like prospective pre-meds? Obviously, you've talked to me like a bunch, and but a lot of the people who are going to be listening right now are going to be pre-meds, pre-dentals, and other like pre-health students. Do you have any insights or advice that you've given to those individuals that you can share here to help the listeners?
We talked yesterday about how high school exposes us to as many advanced courses as you can towards core subjects that you would be taking through university. So prenatal versus pre-med and stuff like that. Just the same thing, which is be conscious of your time through your 3 or 4 years. Again, have a mentor. We talked about that in detail yesterday. That you have to have a mentor who can set up widely, what to look forward to. So when to start research, when I'm going to give my MCAT or DAT exam, when do I need to take my which subjects before the other ones, so that I can be better prepared for my MCAT or DAT, which majors we need to take, what am I good at. There's so many things up in there though, right? So, but what I would say is that just finding a good mentor would really solve all these problems. So just look for a good mentor. That's what I would say, is that really help a person out.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we're gonna move on. We're gonna change subject a little bit more, and this one we're gonna go into a little bit of like faith, religion, and spirituality because I thought these questions would be really interesting because we're both Muslims, and I thought this would be interesting. So, how does your faith and your spirituality affect the way you practice medicine?
Um, the faith makes me a better human, and that's what the whole idea about faith and Islam is, right? To make us better human beings. And if I'm a good human being, then I'll be a good doctor, a good husband, a good father, a good everything, right? So that's the whole idea. So I really feel like faith is a cornerstone, at least for myself. People might have different uh, process about it, but I try to practice my religion as close to as I'm supposed to follow, right? Um, I felt that it's really made me a good human being, and that translates into a good doctor, a doctor who has empathy, you know, things of that order.
So, during like the really hard years of your college, your medical school, and the whole like sort of process of becoming a physician, how did, Islam, how did your spirituality, how did all of those factors help you overcome all of like the really difficult challenges and persevere through like the really, really demanding process? Are there any specific experiences or practices that helped you with having more strength and guidance?
So for me, at least, unfortunately, the reality of matter is I didn't come closer to the religion until, I would say, 20 years or so ago. So I went through my med school, my college years, not being that close to Islam. Doing your prayers and stuff like that here and there, Juma regularly. Growing up in Pakistan, but I was never really. I always had that heart towards religion. Like always had good feelings towards religion. I never had any kind of vague, crazy ideas about Islam and stuff like that. But I was never really like a truly practicing Muslim growing up. Uh, but Alhamdulillah, I always had this good thing about Islam in my heart, though. So once I was able to have a good company around me, which happened around, I would say, 19, I would say around 2000, 2002. That's the time for me. That was my turnaround as far as religion is concerned. I was able to find some good friends around me. I think really guided me and helped me along. And then, Alhamdulillah, Allah Ta'ala just put more uh, faith, and now I'm very happy with where I am with my religion.
So, a lot of individuals of faith, whether they be Christians, Muslims, or Jews, they find solace, they find peace in their beliefs. And that is like a factor because we pray, we make dua, and a lot of it, we talk about like our problems, we ask for Allah to make them like easier or go away. And that gives us like an inner peace, right? In whatever, situation we might find ourselves. The the question I have for you is, what advice would you give to the students or individuals who I say that they're atheist or they're agnostic or they don't really have any sort of, belief in any sort of faith, and they may struggle to find like that same solace and peace in like their pre-med process or their pre-dental process.
Mm. You know, the reality of the matter is, even for I'm not sure how many young kids who are growing up like your age. I hope and I pray that they have that much faith to fall back on when they're struggling. It always, I'm sure it makes it easier for kids like you. Um, I personally feel like some things just need time and maturity. So you always pray that you get that maturity at much earlier age, so you have a better fallback. Uh, at your age, parents play a major role. You know, yes, I'm sure that individual iman and individual strength is going to go a long ways. But I think that the main strength at this age, where you are, for example, or kids your age with different faiths, or even being atheists and stuff, having good people around them with good moral values, people who have a positive outlook on life, that's just important to have good people around you who just kind of, push you in the right direction and always have good opinions about you. Uh, and as long as you can find people around you who have got a good heart, then you're good to go, I think. Yeah. On top of that, if you have religion, as in your corner, and you have enough faith in your heart, that is solidified in your heart at a young tender age, then that's just amazing. That's just great.
I think the company part, like having the people around you is like so much like important because I definitely found myself like closer to my own faith when I went to college because U of H has a really large like Muslim population and it like it encouraged me to be even better like the on campus and off campus, and I definitely feel like a lot better about it even more now. I think it's always like it's not like, a static thing. There's ups and downs, and I definitely feel like with going to U of H has helped me reach more ups.
For me, the turnaround was when I came back from my fellowship. I think that was in 2002 from Buffalo, and was just lucky enough to be around good friends from the masjid area, and uh, uh, almost all of them were physicians, and that just was the start for me. Yeah, but Alhamdulillah, you have to have good people around you. Otherwise, it just won't work out. Doesn't matter what you want to do in life. If you don't have good people around you, you just that's why I tell all of my patients, my young ones, that you're known by the friends you keep. So if you don't have good friends around you, it'll be so hard for you to be successful. You know, uh, that's why I always encourage kids to take advanced courses as much as possible. So from fifth to sixth grade, you go from elementary to middle school, you automatically get into or get surrounded by kids who are just like you, who want to, take challenges and advance, their academics and stuff like that, who come from families where academics is being taken as a challenge and, pushed. So all those things are, and again, it all basically what you're talking about is be around good people. Yeah.
So it's like I guess like a lot of the brunt of the matter is that people have like a really huge impact, whether they be like your peers or like your mentors. They're gonna help elevate you or they can bring you down.
100%, 100%. You have to have good people around you. Definitely.
I there was like a little question about your patients that I forgot to ask you about earlier, but you said that a lot of times you see like a lot of different patients. In your throughout like your practice, have you had like a few patients that you saw like them in their early lives and you kept seeing them as like they grew up? Like what is that like having to see like a somebody who's like 4 or 5 or like a few 4 or 5 years old and you see them like grow up into like their teenage years? What's that like?
First thing which is kind of strange is that you enter the room and the kid you saw who was like 1 feet or 2 feet or 3 feet tall is now 6 feet tall. So they kind of pass. So I always make this comment that being a small guy myself, like I look at the growth chart and tell a patient, this guy will pass me pretty soon. So the physical change always surprises you. Sometimes you might see a kid who at 10 months, 12 months was a chubby baby, and then 5 years old is just all thinned out. So that's like, oh no, man, come on. I want a chubby face again. So the physical change is different. Physical change is a good one. You see them. You like seeing them get matured and stuff like that. Um, it's just good to see them, grow and develop. Unfortunately, a lot of uh, our offices are in areas where the demographic is more towards lower income people. So, so you don't see that many kids that you were around, went on from high school to college and now in med school or engineering school, or they've done this or they've done that. So that's a part that kind of saddens you a little bit. So, but it's good to see them get mature and stuff. Yeah, I've gotten some good some nice kind letters from some of our patients that, hey, I listened to your advice and I'm so thankful. This and that. Not many, but few of them. But it always makes me feel good about that.
No, I think like definitely I can speak for it myself. I was back in middle school, so this was a good, what was it, 6 years ago? I got like a really bad asthma attack, and my mom called, I think was it your wife, and you were like so just kind enough to just come to like our apartment, and you helped me with that. And it's like I don't think I was ever even aware that I was dealing with like asthma until like after you saw me, and it's just been better for me for it.
For me, the more better, more interesting conversation was when you and your family came to our house. We had a discussion about high school and going to college, and you had some crazy ideas at that time. Which me and I'm not sure if you remember those ideas or not. Maybe you can.
I don't remember. I'm probably gonna cringe really hard.
Me and my son were like chuckling a little bit. He's got some weird ideas about what he wants to do after high school or how he wants to pursue it. And when he, so we were talking about gap here at that time.
Yeah,
And that kind of really threw me off. I'm like, oh, okay. So as a desi parent, gap year is just something which we don't like. And my own son is taking a gap year right now. So so it's just a little crazy. But yeah, um, it's always good to be. It makes you feel good. If you can be helpful to somebody, just some time of yours, which is okay. So it's all good, man. I always pray to God, and I'm so thankful that God has put me in a place where I can be helpful. There's so many people out there who, even though they are in a place, but they don't have that thing in their heart to be helpful or kind, or be, a kind word of advice to somebody. It might go a long way. So, but it's just I'm just blessed in that term.
so we have our last question, and this is a good thing because the Zoom says that we have about 6 minutes left. So, as a doctor and as somebody who will like you've talked with me, I'm sure you've talked with other like pre-med people, is that you've likely witnessed the struggles and the stress that pre-med and like medical students face. And obviously you've also have been through that same struggle and the same stress. What are like strategies or coping mechanisms that you recommend to aspiring students to maintain their mental and emotional well-being throughout their educational journey?
Yeah, that's a tough one though. In an ideal world, if you can pursue your 4 years of university with some courses which might be geared towards med school, for example, anatomy, physiology, genetics, microbiology. I think those are all subjects that you can theoretically take through your 4 years of college and university, right? So that's one thing. If there's any way you can fit in those subjects in there, so you're better prepared when you start your med school, because a lot of that would include anatomy, physiology, and biology, and some pathology, physiology, which are all subjects that you can take through to college years. So if that's one possibility, that will be great. Number two, I would say have a good outlet, right? Have a schedule first. Have a good schedule first. So make sure that you don't leave things for the next day. So try to get things done as much as possible. All right. Be conscious of your time. So everybody has different mental capacities of memorization, because there's so much memorization in high school, right? So some people just have more memorization skills than you would have. So all you can do is just put in some extra effort, some extra hours. All right. Uh, Come up with some kind of a time frame where you have a time just for yourself, maybe half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour every day, where you can just exercise or jog or do whatever you want to, what things that makes you feel more calm down. Find, again, same thing, find a mentor in med school, find people around you who are going to be a positive influence on you. uh, I don't see a reason why anybody would be able to waste any time, because things go so fast in med school that you just don't have any time. So uh, just be prepared. Just be prepared with note taking skills, your tools that you would have, and all those things. But just have good people around you. Make sure that you don't compromise on your sleep hours and stuff like that. Exercise on a regular basis. If you can, all those things will make it better. And again, having a good mentor. Start medical school, get a good mentor before you start medical school, so they can give you the ups and downs and how to where to get notes from, how to prepare notes, and which classes where, and all that stuff. Study hours. There's so much that you can get from somebody who's a year or two ahead of you. So, but take out time for yourself a little bit here and there. Exercise on a regular basis. I think that'll go a long ways.
All right, that's about it. We have no more questions. Thank you so very much. This has been a lot of fun for me. I've really loved listening to this. I've really loved like just asking you all these questions that are on my mind. And I hope that whoever like listens or watches when we've had this edited and put it up on YouTube is that they draw from like your wisdom and all of these things that you said.
All right, then take care, buddy. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.